Hey there, Sharon Horne-Ellstrom here. Welcome to day 136 of our Be a Better You annual challenge. Today we're talking about ensuring your financial well-being. What the heck does that mean? Of course, today we're going to talk about insurance. Now, you may know a lot about insurance, more than me. I basically have gone out and found insurance vendors that I trust, and I make sure that they have got me covered in the different areas and aspects of my life that I want to be protected in. What the heck is insurance? Insurance is really just a contract between you and a company that says for you paying a monthly regular premium, it's called a premium, they will help protect you and help pay the cost of, or cover entirely in some instances, very rarely nowadays, but it used to be that way, any type of unexpected event that you've gotten insurance for. Now, we'll talk about types of insurance in a minute, but basically it's just a contract between you and a company that allows that company, through actuary tables and all kinds of scientific mathematical stuff, to calculate risks. And they spread those risks out among a lot of people. So instead of it just being you paying into the insurance company, there's literally probably billions of people paying into insurance companies, and that allows them to cover the different things that happen in our lives. Why? Because life is unpredictable, right? You never know when there's going to be an accident or an illness or something else. So insurance gives us the peace of mind to make confident decisions in the face of life's uncertainty. I think that if insurance weren't an option, and don't get me wrong, some people can't afford and don't have the type of insurances that they need, but for those that do have it, it allows you to make better decisions, more confident decisions, go forward in your life without worrying about whatever crazy thing might happen or all the what ifs that the world might throw at us. I'll give a couple of examples of that. And I was going to share other people's examples, but I probably have enough examples in my own life that I can share them. So let's talk about first the different types of insurance. But they just basically protect us. Insurance just basically protects us against, it's kind of like gambling, right? We're gambling, we're betting that we're probably going to have an accident or something's going to happen in our lifetime, because the probability is pretty high, right? For different types of insurance. And the insurance companies are betting that nothing's going to happen to us, right? And they spread that out over millions and millions of people. And that's what makes them, some of the richest companies in the world, because they don't have to pay out as much as they take in, right? So what are some different types of insurance? Of course, we all know about health insurance. Health insurance has been a huge topic, at least in America and around the world, ever since insurance was invented. I need a magnifying glass. But health insurance protects us against illnesses and things like that. Now, thank goodness, because I know a lot of people that have gotten cancer, and in order to afford some of the cancer treatments, I remember my grandpa, he died at 92, but he had to do a cancer shot, and it was $15,000 every time he had to do one of these shots. And that was back, he's been gone for a long time, so that was 20 years ago. I can't imagine what they'd be charging for that same shot today. Life insurance, of course, protects us should something happen to us. And if we're the sole breadwinner, or even if we're in a dual income household, if one of the earners were to pass away, there's a whole lot of expenses and a whole lot of things that usually need to be taken care of. Mortgage, living expenses for your family. If your significant other now has to be the sole caregiver of your kids, because they don't make enough money in their job to cover childcare, much less all the other expenses that they would need to, or would experience. It just is peace of mind that, heaven forbid, should anything happen to you, your loved ones are taken care of and protected. Or they at least have a cushion so that they're not left in dire straits. Auto insurance, well, we all know what that one is. I haven't personally totaled any of my vehicles, but I've had several of my vehicles totaled by other people, both personally and in our business. And if we wouldn't have had insurance for our delivery vehicle, we would have been in big trouble with the business. Homeowners and renters insurance, I think we also know what this is. If your house catches on fire, if you have a break-in, if you have a flood, if you have a certain event, a tornado or storm or damage, depending on where you live, homeowner insurance and renters insurance helps you cover this. I always take a second and warn people, if you are renting where you are living, you are not covered. Your stuff is not covered. Any of your personal possessions, any of your furniture, any of your anything isn't covered by the homeowner's insurance. You have to have a separate rental policy. I know so many people that have gotten burned by that, thinking, oh, I don't need insurance. The owner of the building has insurance. Well, yeah, they do, to replace their building, but not to replace any of your items. Disability insurance. I personally have used this one. I had kidney surgery on my first job with Procter & Gamble. I had a really badly infected kidney and almost lost it, but they saved it. But I was out of work for 6 weeks after that surgery. And if I had not had disability insurance, I wouldn't have been able to pay my rent. I wouldn't have been able to pay my new car payment. I wouldn't have been able to do any of that. So disability insurance covers us in case we are not able to work. Travel insurance, I got a good one for this too. Not for me personally, but my son went to Mount Everest and climbed to base camp and proceeded to get high mountain altitude sickness and needed to be airlifted from base camp back down to Kathmandu, or he would have died. Now, I think the flight cost like $45,000, which, I didn't have a spare $45K laying around, but fortunately he had talked to me about and convinced me that it was a good idea that he have trip insurance. And so he had travel insurance for that trip. Thank God, because otherwise that would have been a big dent in his traveling plans, as well as, he did continue to travel after he recovered in Kathmandu. I don't know I can't remember what the hospital was, but that was thousands and thousands of dollars more, right? So trip insurance, travel insurance, if you're going anywhere out of the ordinary, like Mount Everest or any other mountain that you might have to be airlifted off of due to high mountain altitude sickness being a high probability, please, I urge you to get travel and trip insurance. I think most of the cruises and things I've gone on, I have bought travel insurance and trip insurance, never had to not go on a trip because of it, but I had a sudden cardiac arrest, so I almost had to use it for one of my cruises. But that was one of my goals, was I was going to be good enough that I could go on that cruise. And I did, and had a blast. I didn't look it up, but one other thing I want to mention, I'll probably mention this at Supersize Your Business, is the importance of having an umbrella policy. A policy, we have all these different, I didn't even talk about long-term care. I don't have it on the list. That's interesting. I would say another type of insurance that nowadays, and now that we're living longer, people should also consider and see if it's right for you is long-term care. Maybe it's considered as part of disability insurance, but I don't know. I think it's a separate thing. If nowadays, with people living longer, the probability of us needing and requiring some kind of long-term care and assistance becomes greater and greater. And so that is one of those insurances that people tend to say, I'm never going to need it. It's never going to happen to me. But guess what? The probability and the actuary tables say differently. So it's something that you might want to consider. And the other one was having an umbrella policy. An umbrella policy is a policy that you can get. They're expensive, but they're worth it because they cover all kinds of things, especially if you've got your own business or you have a side hustle or something that you could get sued for. They cover you if somebody sues you or does other things that are not awesome for our businesses and our lives. All right, I'm not going to show anybody else's examples because I sprinkled in a couple of my own about insurance, but part of us being financially healthy and having financial well-being is making sure that we are covered in the event of situations that are outside of our control. And insurance is one way to help us with that, so we have the confidence to move forward and make the choices and decisions that are right for us in our life, especially financially. All right, any questions about this? Let me know. Share in the comments below if you think that you've got all the areas and aspects of your life covered with insurance. Just write covered in the comments below. Otherwise, if you've got any questions, ask. I'll see you tomorrow. Bye. Have a great day.